Yeah. So shall we start?
Yeah. Am I audible to you guys, like the respondents?
Yes, Your Lordship.
Yeah.
Yes,
You guys are who are the petitioners here?
So we are the petitioners.
Sure. So am I audible to the respondents?
yes, sir. Yes, your lordship.
Yeah. Sure.
So good morning. Yeah. So shall I start?
Sure.
Yeah. So good morning to the Honorable Judge, Mr. Rahul Thomas, and the moot participants. Welcome all you to the second National Virtual Moot
morning.
Court competition. So for the prelims round, we have Mr. Rahul Thomas as today's judge. Briefing about him, Mr. Rahul Thomas is a practicing advocate in the Telangana High Court. He is a law graduate from Christ University, Bangalore. He has been an avid debater and mooter and received several accolades in the same during his college days. He has participated in the prestigious Philip C. Jessup and Leiden Serin International Moot Court competitions. So, further, I would like to clarify the rules for the participants. First, each speaker has a time of 15 minutes. The first speaker can yield time to the second speaker when they are done. Extra time may be granted up to the discretion of the judges. Judges on their discretion are free to give the feedback after the speaker are done with their rounds. Rebuttal rounds are of 1 minute each. Sir rebuttal, if any, is upon the discretion of the judge. So let's start. I would request the teams to start.
The petitioner counsel can start.
Your Lordship, the council seeks permission to proceed.
Please proceed.
Much obliged, Your Lordship. Your Lordship, the council seeks permission to proceed with the statement of jurisdiction.
Statement of jurisdiction, yes. That is something I would like to hear.
Much obliged, Your Lordship. It is humbly submitted that the petitioner has approached the Honorable Supreme Court invoking its jurisdiction under Article 142 of the Constitution of the Republic of Replimento 1950.
How? How is it Article 142 of the Constitution? 142 of the Constitution is not a provision under which you approach the Supreme Court. 142 is the power of the Supreme Court to issue an order. It is a power of the Supreme Court. It is not a right for a petitioner to go ahead to the Supreme Court under 142. If there is any clarification, you can clarify.
Yes, Your Lordship. Indeed, but Article 142 says that enforcement of decree and the orders of the Supreme Court, and unless as to decree, as the Supreme Court in its exercise of jurisdiction may pass any such decree or make such order as is necessary for doing complete justice in any matter or matter pending before it, as the High Court stood seized and the Supreme Court has taken up the cases.
Counsel, what are the manners in which you can go to the Supreme Court? What are the manners in which you can go to the Supreme Court?
Your Lordship, under the Article 142, the Supreme Court has its powers to go, and the petitioner has the powers to approach the Honorable Supreme Court, so that the Supreme Court.
Is what are the different kinds of jurisdiction that
Your Lordship, it is a writ petition, not a special leave petition. Under the special leave,
this is not a writ petition under 32 which is being taken up.
This is not a special leave petition, Your Lordship.
Okay.
So other jurisdictions do not fall under the case. And
okay. So I believe 136 is out of the picture. 32 is also out of the picture. But I don't understand how 142 is applicable over here, because number one, 142 is not a section under which you can approach the Supreme Court on complete justice, which has to be done. My question is, counsel, how is 139A not applicable in this situation?
Indeed, Your Lordship, under Article 139A, and Article 139A talks about the cases transferred from the Honorable High Courts to the Supreme Court. But in this case, the Honorable Supreme Court has took up the cases from the High Courts, and many cases have been transferred, and many cases have been filed in the various High Courts. So the Supreme Court stands seized.
We can move on from the jurisdiction. We'll go to the arguments.
Much obliged, Your Lordship. Your Lordship, the council seeks permission to proceed with the statement of facts.
The facts, I'm well aware of it. Go ahead. Go straight to the arguments.
Much obliged, Your Lordship. The council seeks permission to proceed with the statement of issues.
I am well aware of the statement of issues. What are the issues that you are going to be dealing with? And tell me, yeah, that's about what I require.
Yeah. Much obliged, Your Lordship. Present council would be dealing with the issue number 1 and 2. Issue 1, whether or not the Hindu Marriage Act 1955 and Special Marriage Act 1954 can be read in a manner to include members from the LGBTQIA plus community. And issue 2, whether or not the customs, traditions, rites, rituals form an exhaustive code as contested by the Republic of Replimento. And my co-counsel would be dealing with issue number 3 and 4, whether or not the members from the said community can be allowed to be married as per the rituals of the respective religion.
Are you audible? Is he audible to others?
Yes.
Your voice is breaking, Kush.
Just stop the timer for some time.
Yeah.
I beg your pardon, Your Lordship. My counsel is facing
Yeah.
some network issues. He'll be back in a moment.
Sure. We'll wait. It's not a problem.
Much obliged, Your Lordship.
We have paused the timer for now. Once he's back, we'll start again.
Okay, Lordship.
Pardon me, Your Lordship, for the unstable internet connectivity.
No problem. Is it working now?
Yes, Your Lordship, I have tried my best.
Sure. We can start from where we left off. We can start the timer again.
Much obliged, Your Lordship.
Yes.
Council seeks permission to proceed with the arguments advanced.
So you're dealing with issue number 1 and 2, right?
Yes, Your Lordship.
Yeah. Start.
Whether or not the Hindu Marriage Act 1955 and Special Marriage Act 1954 can be read in a manner to include members from the LGBTQIA plus community. The Council humbly submits before this Honorable Court that the LGBTQIA plus community has not been provided with the equivalent rights in the Hindu Marriage Act 1955 and Special Marriage Act 1954, since decriminalization of the Section 377 has been done a long time ago, but there is no such provision have been granted of the marriage of the same-sex couple. It very clearly states that marriage can indeed be solemnized between any two Hindus. Section 5 of the Hindu Marriage Act 1955 does not distinguish between homosexual and heterosexual couples, and the right of same-sex couples to marry should be recognized under this act, as it act does not distinguish between heterosexual and homosexual marriage. This is complete violation of the Article 14 of the Constitution of Republic of Replimento. It is incumbent upon the Council to highlight that it has been held in the case of Lata Singh versus State of UP and another that the Supreme Court interpreted it to be a part of Article 21 of the Indian Constitution. The Supreme Court in this case of intercaste marriage stated that after a person becomes major, she can marry whomsoever she like. It is urged that the American Psychological Association has
Okay, wait,
opened that this section.
I'm getting, I feel I've read your memorial and I feel like all the arguments are literally a reflection of the memorial itself. So my question is this: so are you contending that the scheme of Hindu Marriage Act is one which does not discriminate, or are you saying that the Hindu Marriage Act in itself is discriminatory?
Much obliged, your lordship. Your lordship, the Hindu Marriage Act is discriminating the LGBTQI plus community, because in the Hindu
Okay.
Marriage Act talks about the biological man and the biological woman, and there it talks in the section 5 that talks about the
Okay.
Hindus in the
Okay.
further, and but in the
My next question
subclauses,
is, my next question is, Hindu Marriage Act comes under personal laws, which clearly states that personal laws are not bound by the same level of judicial scrutiny as that of any other law which is there. So what do you say about that form of an argumentation when it's Hindu Marriage Act falls under personal law, and we have judgments like what Narsuappa Mali of the Bombay High Court, wherein it's very clearly stated that personal laws are a set of laws which cannot come under judicial scrutiny under Article 13. So how do you get over that problem, counsel?
much obliged, your lordship. Indeed, but in this present case, after the Supreme Court judgment in the 2014 Nalsa versus Union of India, in that judgment, the Supreme Court clearly stated that the right to privacy has to be given to the said community. And in the 2018 case, they've also said that the rights to be made, and they have not provided the rights. Only the Transgender Person Bill Act 2019 has come. They have not granted anything such that. And the codified laws and the statutory laws, they have to be re-amended. They have to be amendments to be done so that the LGBTQI plus community.
Those are issues which the legislature have to deal with, not issues which come under the purview of the court to make a determination as to whether or not it falls under the test of 14 and 21. So my question again is, how do I come to the conclusion that this court has the power to go ahead and state that certain things which are there under personal laws are to be judicially scrutinized?
The petitioners pray for that they have come under the honorable Supreme Court, so that the Republic of Replimento can amend and make the laws for the right and the safety of the LGBTQ community, because they have been done discrimination, because
under what power of the Constitution is the Supreme Court authorized to go ahead and talk about
Article 14 talk
about anything like an amendment? So what you are basically...
Yes, your lordship. Your lordship, Article 14 talks about the equality before the law, and they are also the said people of the country. They also the law-abiding citizens. So why they are not have been granted the civil rights, and why not granting the rights to marry? Because they are also the human beings. They also have their lives. They do not have disobeyed anything for this country, not then ashamed. So under Article 14 and under various articles like Article 21 talks about the right of liberty, personal liberty, and discrimination under Article 15, discrimination from the not to be discriminated on the basis of gender, sex, religion, caste. So why the said community has been discriminated, and this community has come here for their rights. They want their rights. The basic fundamental rights have not been granted to them. The Republic of Replimento is not thinking about them. They have not providing them any rights. And the said which has been passed in the 2019 only talks about the educational institutions and other things, but they have not provided with the same. As in the Nalsa judgment, this talk about the court has said that they have to give them under pardon me, lordship, just a second. They have to give them their under economical and backward classes, but the legislature have not provided the thing. They have not followed the court's order. The court said, honorable court said, that they have to come under economical and socially weaker section. They have not given them the right. And also in the case Puttaswamy versus Union of India judgment, the right to privacy.
Counsel, I feel like Counsel, you have cited three judgments over here. Nalsa judgment, you have cited right to privacy judgment, and I believe you're going on the lines of Navdeep Singh Johar as well. My question over here still is this: wherein when we are looking at issue number 1, we have to come to a conclusion about how discrimination 21 and all are applicable to personal laws. I understand Hindu Marriage Act, it's a little difficult to argue. Argue at least in terms of Special Marriage Act and say that a secular provision which is there is something which has to be scrutinized. What you have told me is, yeah, they have to have civil rights. They have. I need a little bit of legal authority in terms of that. The judgment that you have cited over here, well, is not one which refers to anything to do with. It only refers to intercaste marriages, right?
Much obliged, Your Lordship. Your
Yes.
Lordship, in the Special Marriage Act talks about all the various marriage acts, and in the present time they have not provided them with any of the acts. So legislature can make upon the amendments in the Special Marriage Acts or the any other make a new act for the LGBTQIA can be granted to them of the marriage, or they can give them the civil rights.
Number one here, it's very simple. You don't come to the Supreme Court and ask the Supreme Court or give a suggestion to the other side, which is the central government, to make amendments. The only way in which you can approach the Supreme Court is if you see any discrimination which is there, or you see a certain act to fall short of arbitrariness or any other provision or any other test which is laid down by the court in the coming years. How are you coming to this court and now suggesting that the center should go ahead and make amendments or changes?
Much obliged, Lordship. The Council only prays before the Honorable Supreme Court that the laws can be made as it has done over the 7 years of the Nalsa judgment and more than 3 years of the
Nalsa
Section
judgment
377.
The Nalsa judgment refers only to which are the transgenders. There are other individuals who are there within the community who are not covered by the Nalsa judgment.
Indeed, Your Lordship. But in this situation, the all has to be covered. The all have to be given the rights of the marriage rights, because they all having the right to marry. They all having the civil. They want their basic. Government cannot give them this marriage right. But if a gay couple gets come into accident and admitted into a hospital, so only the visitor's right has been given to the spouse.
Council, what are the civil rights that you're
the basic civil rights? Right to property.
Give me a list.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, Your Lordship. Right to property, right to Workers Factories Act, under the Factories Act, under the Economical Weaker Section Act, under the Indian Contracts Act, they can make their own contracts.
Are you telling me that these individuals, just because they fall into the LGBT community, are not covered by these acts?
Your Lordship, they have not been covered. They have not given their proper rights under the Sexual Harassment Act.
That is a wrongful submission to make. How are you telling me that the LGBT community, who are individuals and citizens of India, are not covered by these particular acts? They are covered by these particular acts.
Your Lordship,
show me something to the contrary.
Your Lordship, under the Sexual Harassment Act, in that they have said that for this Sexual Harassment Act, they have punishable offense of 2 years for if any offense made against the transgender. But in the case of women, the punishment is of till 7 years. So they have discriminating them. They have discriminating them on the basis of their gender. There is on that side.
How is that a civil right which is being violated?
Your Lordship, the civil rights are being violated because the people are seeing them not like the normal eyes. They seem like some other aliens type. The civil rights, like the workers' place, harassment section.
My question is, what is the difference between a socio-economic right and a civil right?
Your Lordship, socio-economic rights.
We are going to the end of this. I can give you 2 or 3 more minutes at.
Yes, Your Lordship. Your Lordship, the basic civil rights talks about the right to marriage, right to privacy, and the other various fundamental rights. And this talk about right to have a family and to have their own space.
Is he audible to you guys?
No.
No, Your Lordship.
Your Lordship, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible now. Yeah. Continue.
Pardon me, Your Lordship, for the
No
continuous
problem. Continue.
disconnectivity because of the rain problem outside.
No
It's
issues. Continue.
heavily raining. Pardon me, Lordship.
No
The-
issues. Continue.
If the bench is satisfied with the arguments of the present council, then the council seeks permission to proceed with the further issue.
Okay.
Much oblige, Your Lordship. Issue 2, whether or not the customs,
The other
traditions,
council is dealing with
rights,
the further
rituals.
issues.
Pardon me, Lordship. Issue number D dealt by the
You're
council.
dealing
Issue
with issue
number
number
4 will be dealt by council.
Okay.
Yes,
Please make this.
President.
Please make this
Pardon me,
fast.
Lordship.
We don't have a lot.
Much obliged, Lordship. Whether or not the custom,
Yeah.
traditions, rights, rituals form an exhaustive code as contested by the representative, the council humbly submits before this honorable court that custom, traditions, rights, rituals, all these things are not above the human rights of the community. In the other nation, the shift in the understanding of the homosexuality from sin, crime, and pathology to a normal bit of human sexuality occurred in the late 20th century. The American Psychiatric Association in 1973 and the World Health Organization in 1992 officially accepted its normal variants. Many countries have since decriminalized homosexual behavior, and some have recognized same-sex civil unions. Even our country also represents in the International Nation
What does this have
Organization.
to do with customs and traditions? What do these arguments or this line of
I'm coming to this, Your Lordship.
argumentation have to do with customs and traditions? Are you drawing a comparison between customs and traditions and human rights? Because that argument is technically covered within the other civil rights arguments also, right? The question is, customs, tradition, and all, are they amenable? Can they be changed over a period of time? And judicial
Yes,
scrutiny, can it result in it?
Yes, Your Lordship. The customs and traditions which they are talking about are the old custom and traditions. For example, like this Satpadi also has been demolished. The laws at that time have been made according to the people which follows. The customs have been followed, have been made laws. But in the present situation, the LGBT community is on a biased side. They have been biased. They are biased to them. They have not provided them the equal opportunities and the equal rights. So, according to, if we are going to that rituals and customs, then we have not granted them the rights. But in the present situation, they want their rights, as also they are the human beings. They are the citizens of this country. They want their rights. So the customs and traditions are the two things which have mainly fallen back the present council, the petitioners, and they humbly praise before this honorable court so that they can be given rights. This is a scientific thing, the biological thing. Even the WHO has also recognized its variant, and they are the normal human beings born by the God, not by some any scientific thing have done on them. All they want is equality, freedom from discrimination, status in society. They want to run their life like an ordinary human being, not like some special, which people stare at them. They have not done anything to their body. It's the natural, and God has made them this way. They are the law-abiding citizens. The rights and rituals the government is talking about does not matter here, as the same sex are also the human beings. So, in the present situation, 29 countries have discriminalized the same-sex marriages, and they have given the right to the same-sex couples. In Canada, in 2005, they have done. Your Lordship, the Council seeks permission for the extension of time.
How much time would you require?
2 minutes, Your Lordship.
Yeah, what is the skeleton of arguments? What exactly are you telling me? Because I understand that these are not technically very legal arguments, is it? These are factual arguments.
Your Lordship, the legal side of these things, that the union government have taken up the place of the custom and traditions. They are taking backside of the hand of the custom tradition, not providing them the rights. So the rights have to be given to them. Why they have not provided the rights? That is the
Council,
question.
is it a prerogative of the court to go ahead and make changes in the customs, or is it a prerogative of the government to do that?
Only the council prays before the court to the respondent side that the court may pass such order or deem fit for that.
Can you give me a precedent wherein the court has interfered and made a change in terms of a custom or a tradition?
Yes, Your Lordship, in the Triple Talaq Bill, in the Honorable Supreme Court
there is a difference. In the Triple Talaq Bill, what has been held is that that particular aspect of Islam is not an essential part of the religion. The judgment was given by Justice Kurian Joseph himself. So that does not mean there is a change which is made in a custom or tradition. Are you arguing that heterosexual marriages is not a essential part of religions or the precedent other than the triple talaq judgment? Or
Pardon
do
me,
you
your
want to, or
lordship.
do you want to justify triple talaq judgment in terms of
Pardon
your
me, your
usage?
lordship. No, your lordship. Pardon me.
No, if you want to justify triple talaq judgment, you can try. Please go forward.
And I want to also say with this, the Navteej Singh Johar judgment, the court
Okay.
has, honorable court has decriminalized the section 377 of the IPC. And by making these laws,
What
decriminalizing them,
bearing does that have on what is the
the
bearing
present
of?
case talks about the mainly civil rights and marriage rights.
Okay.
Why
So
the customs
does
and
Navteej Singh
traditions?
Johar have an application in the present case?
No, your lordship.
Counsel, I think we have gotten a gist of the arguments. Is there anything else?
No, your lordship. The council seeks permission to call upon my co-counsel to deal with the further issues.
Please proceed.
Much obliged, your lordship.
Your Lordship, the Council seeks permission to proceed with the remaining issues.
Please.
Much obliged, Your Lordship. Issue number 3. Whether or not members from the said community can be allowed to be married as per the rituals of their respective religions. The Council humbly submits before this Honorable Court that in the case of Shakti Vahini versus Union of India and Shafeen Jahan versus Asokan KM, the Honorable Court recognized that an individual's exercise of choice in choosing a partner is a feature of dignity, and therefore it is protected under Articles 19 and 21 of the Constitution. And by not legalizing
one second. The two judgments that you have cited, number one should be Shakti Vahani, right? That refers to honor killings, right?
Yes, Your Lordship.
And the second judgment was,
Shafeen Jahan.
if I'm not wrong, it's a judgment about conversion of Islam, Islamic conversions and marriages which are there in
Yes, Your Lordship.
terms of that. How do you use those judgments to argue a point of law which requires you to justify how individuals can be married off in their customs and traditions?
Your Lordship, customs and traditions are laws which become laws over immemorial period of time.
No.
So
My question
basically,
is, how does Shakti Vahani, which refers to honor killings, have any application in terms of the court interpreting about how people of the LGBT community can be married off within the customs that they like to get married off in?
Indeed, Your Lordship, the Shakti Vahini case of the honor killing, the honor killings were done when the interreligious marriages and intercaste marriages were happening.
Okay.
So basically, there is a discrimination on the part of the court. If interreligious and intercaste marriages are being allowed by certain high courts, and then also the high courts are not allowing, or the Supreme Court is not allowing the LGBTQ community to give them marriage rights to marry as per their religion, then there is discrimination on their part.
Okay. But the question is simple. If the religious laws does not allow them, they would have the provision to go ahead and marry under the Special Marriage Act, which is a secular provision. My question is, how do you require the court to go ahead and interfere into the religious customs and traditions and open it up into ways in which it wasn't open in the past?
Indeed, Your Lordship, like my co-counsel stated,
it is not a general question. It is not a general question about whether or not they can get married. It is now a very specific question in issue 3 about whether they can get married in the manner in which that they want to get married under the provisions of under the customs and traditions of each religion. How does the court interfere over here and allow that to happen? What are the precedents and what are the legal arguments over here?
much obliged, Your Lordship. As my co-counsel stated, in triple talaq bill, the court modified the laws of the Islamic laws of marriage and extended it to them. So they can also do that in Hindu Marriage Act, so that they can allow the homosexual people to marry in their Hindu Marriage Act bill.
What is the role of the court then?
The court will pass the amendment and the bill will come in motion.
I'm sorry, what is the role of the court?
The court has to provide the LGBTQIA plus community the rights that they
No, no, no,
deserve,
no, no.
the right to
If you're seeking an amendment, the court does not have a power to ask the central government to make an amendment. The court has a power to strike down something that the central government has come out with. How is there a prayer? How can we allow a prayer which seeks merely an amendment of an act? Because that is not something which is within the power of this court.
Indeed, your lordship. But the court has to do something, as we can see in Nalsa case and in Navtej Singh Johar case. They have been passed a long time ago. Nalsa case took place 7 years ago, and Navtej Singh Johar case took place 3 years ago. But still, no further amendments or bills have been passed, except the Transgender People Rights Bill for the welfare of the community, of the LGBTQIA plus community. So the court has to interfere with this with the legislative properties, and it has to pressurize the legislature to pass such bills for the welfare of the society, of the community. Although it is a minuscule community, it also deserves the rights.
Okay, proceed.
Much obliged, your lordship. It is submitted that the provisions and amendments can be made in the Hindu Marriage Act 1955, Special Marriage Act 1954, and other marriage acts for the betterment of the society. In the case of National Legal Services Authority versus Union of India, the court gave them the identity as third gender. There is no difference between people who defy social conventions to enter into interreligious and intercaste marriages and those who choose a same-sex partner, in the sense that the society may disapprove of intercaste or interreligious marriages. Right to marry is a fundamental right and is part of right to life under Article 21 of the Constitution. Even the Honorable Supreme Court has decriminalized the Section 377.
Counsel, under what authority? What is the citation? What is the citation to ensure the right to marry is a fundamental right, or it can be interpreted as a right under Article 21, thereby making it a fundamental right?
Article 21 talks about right to life and right to
Yes.
personal liberty.
Yes. How do we come
So-
to the interpretation that the right to marry is a fundamental right?
Right to marry, right to adopt, and surrogacy succession, other rights are included in the fundamental right of Article 21, as it provides
How?
liberty and life to.
What is the authority? You may be right. My question is, where do you get it from?
Pardon me, your lordship, are you seeking the clauses?
No. Under right to life, it's a 3-line section. I don't think you can get any clause from that. My question is, how do you come to the conclusion that right to marry is a fundamental right? Do you get it from judgment?
Much obliged, your lordship. The judgment of Navtej Singh Johar case versus Union of India decriminalized Section 377, although it was not hindering.
Really? No.
Yes, your lordship.
I don't think Navtej Singh Johar talks anything about right to marriage being a fundamental right, does it?
No, your lordship.
But I believe that Shaktivani probably does talk about that.
Indeed, your lordship.
Move on.
Shakti Vahini talks about the honor killings when interreligious and intercaste marriages were not tolerated by people, and the High Court's passed provisions for the betterment of the society, so that they could marry even if they were not of the same religions and same caste. So they were basically abolishing the casteist system, which is covered under Article 15, which talks about discrimination under same sex, creed, religion, other things. And Article 21, right to life, is talking about the basic rights that a human should have. As if I can cite an example, if a spouse is in an accident and he is hospitalized, then the hospital has certain provisions and limitations that only allow family members to be there for the spouse. But if marriage rights are not given to the LGBTQIA plus community, how can they identify themselves in such dire situations?
I get your point, counsel. My question is, how is the lacuna of a law leading to, how is the lacuna of a law a justification for providing a provision from the authority of the Supreme Court?
Supreme Court provides
I
the
understand
fundamental
that,
rights
yes.
which are violated.
What fundamental right is violated when access of health is not given to an individual who is related to a particular person? Because as of now, we have not recognized the concept of a marriage between them. So what is the fundamental right which is lost? But I think answering a different question would be easier. If it's a live-in couple which is there,
Yes, your
if
lordship.
it's a live-in couple which is there, do you think any of these rights are provided to them? If it's
No,
a heterosexual live-in couple who's there, approval which is provided, are those rights provided under the present legal system?
no, your lordship.
Okay.
Even the heterosexual couples are not provided any rights if they are in a live-in relationship. They can identify themselves only as friends and
Sure.
other such relations, but they cannot say that they are related to him directly. And marriage is an institution or which unifies two people publicly so that they can be recognized by the community. So I think both homosexual and heterosexual people, if you're talking about live-in relationships as in particular, should be given such rights so as to identify themselves in such dire situations.
Counsel, at present, which issue are you arguing, 3 or 4?
3, your
Okay.
lordship.
Okay. I don't see a connection. I think those aspects have been covered by your co-counsel. The question about marriage in the form that as per their rituals is not something that you have very specifically addressed.
Indeed, your lordship. The rituals and traditions are a part of the society and community which have been followed for a great length of time. But rituals like Sati Pratha have been abolished. Rituals like
Sati,
child marriage.
how were these things abolished in the past? Is it by judicial interference or by government scrutiny?
Your lordship, both can be the case. As
My question
Raja
is, how
Ram
were
Mohan
they
Roy
done? My question is factual, not about how can they be done. How were they done in the past? I'll answer it for you. It was through legislations itself that sati was abolished and child marriage is still prevalent. But the question is, if it comes within the domain of the legislature, how is the court bound to interfere? There is no precedent over here for us to interfere in terms of a situation where personal law is involved.
Yes, your lordship.
We don't getting many citations on that aspect, but yes, please argue. How much time is left, court officer?
3 minutes, 33 seconds.
How much?
It's 3 minutes. 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
Sure. Counsel,
approx.
go on. Yes, counsel, go on.
Much obliged, your lordship. Should I go on with the issue?
Please.
Much obliged, your lordship. In the case of Supreme Court has decriminalized the section 377 in the case of Navtej Singh Johar versus Union of India. After that, giving them the right to marry in their own community would not create a problem. In the case of Sultana Mirza and another versus State of UP and others, the Honorable Allahabad High Court extends protection to same-sex couple, acknowledging the stark reality of discrimination faced by the community in the society.
Counsel, Sultana Mirza was a judgment which refers to live-in couples, right?
Yes, your lordship.
How do we apply that jurisprudence into our present case?
Much obliged, your lordship. As I cited the case earlier of the spouses not given certain privileges when they are in a dire situation, so they should be given the rights, civil rights, and the rights to marriage, so that they can identify themselves. Even if they are in a live-in relationship, they are not provided all the rights. And being a minuscule LGBTQI community, they are not given many civil rights. So they need the rights so that they can identify themselves as the person's relative, or so that they can also have their own personal rights as they reciprocate.
Counsel, those issues come within the domain of civil rights. We are not on that issue anymore. We are on the issue of whether or not marriage, right? We are on issue number
3, Your Lordship.
Yes, we're on that issue wherein customs, whether they're amenable or change or they come under judicial scrutiny. So in terms of that, I don't see those arguments having a relevance over here.
Much obliged, Your Lordship. The customs were the laws made for the benefits of the people and the society. Laws are always made for the benefit of the and the welfare of the society. So customs can come to change as the society changes, and the society is changing with the
Council, I got issue number 3. Move on to issue number 4. We don't have a lot of time, so move on to issue number 4.
Much obliged, Your Lordship. Whether or not civil rights can be granted to the members of the LGBTQIA plus community. The council humbly submits before this honorable court that the LGBTQIA plus community have not been given civil rights, although section 377, which deals with discrimination on grounds of sexual orientation, has been decriminalized. The rights to marry, adopt a child, property, and other fundamental rights which the citizens get in reciprocity of fundamental duties performed by them should be provided to the LGBTQIA plus community. The parliament has still not made any further efforts to translate the rights of succession and protection from violence in intimate relationships for the community. And neither has it given the LGBTQIA plus community any directions with regard to the service in the military of the Republic of Replimento. The council deems it requisite to highlight the matter of Professor Ramachandra Srinivas Siras. The professor was suspended from Aligarh Muslim University. The professor was caught by the media having an affair with a person of the same gender in his household. The prestigious professor committed suicide when a video was leaked involving him and a rickshaw puller who were recorded having coitus inside the professor's household premises. This is a clear case of interference with the right to privacy, which is constituted under Article 21 that protected what he did.
Council, that instance is not under challenge before the Supreme Court. So I don't think that factual issue has a relevance over here.
Indeed, Your Lordship, the case Ramachandra Siras, Professor Ramachandra Siras did not seem it requisite to file the case in front of the Supreme Court as he was afraid of exposing himself.
No,
But
no. We can move on. We can move on to what else you have other than facts.
Much obliged, Your Lordship.
Or the prayer. Anything is fine. Like whatever you want.
Indeed, Your Lordship. Much obliged, Your Lordship. The Supreme Court, while reading down section 377 of the Penal Code of the Republic of Replimento, had also held that LGBTQIA plus community will be entitled to equal citizenship, thereby hinting at the future expansion of civil rights. But further developments regarding the civil rights is still awaiting any ruling. If the bench is satisfied with the arguments of the present council, then the council seeks permission to move on with the prayer.
Please.
Much obliged, Your Lordship. In light of the questions presented, arguments advanced, and authorities cited, the counsel for the petitioners most humbly and respectfully pray before this honorable court that it may be pleased to adjudge and declare that the Hindu Marriage Act 1955, Special Marriage Act 1954, and other marriage acts can be read in a manner to include members from the LGBTQIA plus community. The customs, traditions, rites, rituals does not form an exhaustive code as contested by the Republic of Replimento. The members from the said community can be allowed to be married as per the rituals of their respective religions. The civil rights can be granted to the LGBTQIA plus community. The petitioner additionally prays that the court may make any such order as it may deem fit in terms of equity, justice, and due conscience. And for this act of kindness, the petitioner shall, as duty bound, ever humbly pray. The petitioner rests their case here.
Thank you.
Much
We can
obliged.
start off with the respondents.
May it please your lordships, I'm the counsel representing the respondents, and I shall be dealing with issue 1 and 3, your lordship.
1 and 3.
1 and 3, your lordships. Your lordships, before moving on to the issue, I would like to raise some preliminary objections regarding the petition, your lordships. Regarding the jurisdiction.
With respect to jurisdiction, we have taken note of it. Go on.
Your lordship, okay, your lordship. So I'll start.
Under what section are you coming?
Under 139A, your lordships.
Okay.
So, your lordships, with regard to the jurisdiction, your lordships, I'd like to mention two relevant cases, just like decisions of this honorable court, your lordships, if your lordships would permit them.
Very quick. This is only to see your knowledge about what you're
Much obliged, your lordships. Your
trying
lordships,
to say. Go ahead.
your lordships, generally Article 142 of the Constitution deals with the discretionary power of this honorable court to do complete justice in a case by passing either a decree or order. And this particular decision is binding on all courts, your lordships. So in this regard, I would like to mention two relevant decisions of this honorable court, your lordships. SC Bar Association versus Union of India and another, your lordship, 1998-4 SCC 409, your lordship. Where it was held that though the power under Article 142 is plenary in nature, the same cannot be constituted to mean that the power can be used to supplant the substantive law applicable to the case, your lordships. Another case, your lordship, Anupal Singh and others versus State of Uttar Pradesh through Principal Secretary, Personal Department and others, your lordships. On 30th September 2019, in this honorable court, Civil Appeal number 4815 of 2019, your lordship, where it was held that Article 142 of the Constitution of India confers wide power upon the Supreme Court to do complete justice between the parties. Though the powers conferred on the Supreme Court by Article 142 are very wide, the same cannot be exercised to pass an order inconsistent with express statutory provisions of substantive law, your lordships.
Counsel, those two judgments do not have a relevance here. Because number one, you're challenging them on a jurisdictional basis. 142 cannot be invoked in the first place. So there is no question of going and looking at whether 142 has wide action of power which is there in the Supreme Court. For example, an order can be provided under, we can move on with the arguments. This will come later. Start off with issues.
Much obliged, your lordships. As your lordships are well aware of the facts of the case, I'll move on to issue one, your lordships. Issue one is whether or not the Hindu Marriage Act 1955 and the Special Marriage Act 1954 can be read in a manner to include the members from the LGBTQ community, your lordships. It is humbly submitted to your lordships that neither the Hindu Marriage Act 1955 nor the Special Marriage Act 1954 can be read in a manner to include members from the LGBT community. In this regard, it is submitted that the institution of a marriage between two individuals of same gender is neither recognized nor accepted in any uncodified personal law or codified statutory laws. The culture, customs, and traditions of a country do not recognize such type of marriages. Referring to a case, your lordships, in Kannai Lal Sood versus Paramnidhi Sadhu Khan, reported in AIR 1957, SC 907, the Supreme Court held that it must always be borne in mind that the first and primary rule of construction is that the intention of the legislature must be found in the words used by the legislature itself. If the words used are capable of one construction only, then it would not be open to the courts to adopt any other hypothetical construction on the ground that such hypothetical construction is more inconsistent with the alleged object and the policy of the act.
Counsel, one question, and I hope you understand what is the intention of this question. See, one question is whether or not the framers of this particular legislation intended for this to be inclusive, this to include homosexuals or not, wherein the Supreme Court would only look at whether this is discriminatory. That question does not arise because the intention of the legislature, the intention of the framers does not come where if it is discriminatory in the first place. So taking into account that this could be discriminatory, you have to argue that this that question does not have to be answered by this court. So
yes,
this,
your lordship, I'll come to that argument, your lordships. So, your lordships, can you please repeat the question if you don't mind, your lordships?
My question is this: if it is inherently discriminatory, the intention of the legislative framers is not relevant. So how do you argue that this is not discriminatory when it does not include a certain population within the ambit of the Hindu Marriage Act or the Special Marriage Act?
Your lordship, because both the Hindu Marriage Act was enacted in 1955, and your lordship, and the Special Marriage Act was enacted in 1954, your lordship. At that time, that was during the British rule, your lordships. At that time, they did not exist the concept of same-sex marriages, your lordship, and that is the from the a thorough reading of the statutes, clearly we can see that the legislature did not have the intention of including same-sex couple, your lordship.
See, the intention, is it relevant? How is it relevant for us? When we are ruling in terms of discriminatory practices which are there, how is the intention of a
your lordship, if we keep aside the intention
legislation relevant for us?
Your lordship, if we keep aside the basic intention of enacting the statute, your lordship, that will be meaningless, your lordships.
Counsel, I'll give you an example. See, we can go back to the intention of the framers of the IPC. Maybe they intended 377 to be there because they didn't want homosexuals to go ahead and practice their acts in the way they practice it right now. Now, is that intention relevant for us to go ahead and rule that 377 was discriminatory? Do you want me to repeat?
Indeed, yes, your lordships.
See, the Indian Penal Code was written back in the 1800s. At that point of time, maybe the intention of the legislative framers was to punish individuals who belong to the homosexual community. Now, when the court is ruling as to whether or not that particular provision is discriminatory, is the intention relevant?
Indeed, yes, your lordships. It was enacted in 1860, your lordships, and at that time, your lordship, they might exist. If we in the ancient India, sorry, in the ancient Replimento, there might have existed homosexual things. So that is the reason.
My question is not why there was a need for the law. My question is whether the intention is a requirement when we are ruling in terms of the whether or not it constitutes a fundamental.
You're asking about the intention, your lordships.
I'm not asking about the intention. I'm asking whether the intention is relevant when the court is ruling in terms of whether or not it violates 14 and 21.
Your lordships, with regard to a case, State of West Bengal versus Union of India, reported in AIR 1963 SC 1241, the apex court held that in considering the expression used by the legislature, the court should have regard to the aim, object, and scope of the statute to read in its entirety. So this means this even includes the intention, your lordships.
Okay, continue.
Hope your lordships are satisfied.
Counsel, that is not a question to the court that we have to ask. We have to answer you. That anyway, my question is: are you going to argue Hindu Marriage Act separately and the Special Marriage Act separately, or are you going to argue it as together?
Together, your lordships.
Okay.
Should I continue, your
Continue.
lordship? Much obliged, your lordship. Further, your lordships. Therefore, your lordships, at the time of the enactment of the act, the legislature had no intention to permit same-sex marriages. Further, the question as to whether such a relationship be permitted to be formalized by way of legal recognition of same-sex marriages is essentially a question to be decided by the legislature and can never be a matter of judicial adjudication, your lordships. Further,
why so, counsel?
Your lordship, because all these acts are enacted by the legislature and judiciary, the duty of judiciary is to interpret it, your lordships.
The duty of judiciary is to interpret, and whenever there is an inherent discrimination which exists, our duty is to strike down on it.
Indeed, yes, your lordships.
So if there is a discrimination that we see, then you have to prove it to us that there is no discrimination.
Indeed, yes, your lordship.
So how do you come to the conclusion that there is no discrimination?
Your lordship, the aspect related to the discrimination will be dealt under issue 4 by my co-counsel, your lordships. So I'll be telling how the court is going to interpret whether to include this LGBT community in the Hindu Marriage Act and the Special Marriage Act. That is my issue, your lordships.
Okay. Continue.
Much obliged, your lordships. It is further submitted to your lordships that there exists a legitimate state interest in limiting the legal recognition of marriage to persons of opposite sexes, and it is for the legislature to judge and enforce such societal morality and public acceptance based upon societal ethos of the Republic of Replemento. Further, it is submitted that the court, if it includes an LGBT community, either in the Hindu Marriage Act 1955 or the Special Marriage Act 1954, would commit both a cardinal and cardinal sin by not following the literal rule of statutory construction. Therefore, the words man, woman, bride, bridegroom, or wife or husband used in the act should be given their ordinary meaning. Further, it is submitted to your lordships that the court can analyze existing rights for this. It cannot create a new right. It is not permissible for the court to override the legislative intent with regard to limiting the legal recognition of marriage to heterosexual couples. Moreover, your lordship, any interference with the existing marriage laws would cause complete havoc with the delicate balance of personal laws in the country, and there are chances that it may hurt religious feelings of people and subsequently lead to unfavorable outcomes. Keeping all these things in mind, your lordship, it's humbly submitted to you that the Hindu Marriage Act 1955 and the Special Marriage Act 1954 cannot be read in a manner to include the people of LGBT community in it. Further, your lordships, I would like to move on to issue 3, your lordships,
Please.
with your permission. Much obliged, your lordship. Issue 3 is whether or not the customs, traditions, rites, and rituals form an exhaustive code. It is most humbly submitted to your lordships that the custom, traditions, rites, and rituals do form an exhaustive code in our country. In this regard, it is submitted that in our country, despite statutory recognition of the relationship of marriage between a biological man and a biological woman, marriage necessarily depends upon age-old customs, rituals, practices, cultural ethos, and societal values. Further, custom is a habitual course of conduct observed uniformly and voluntarily by the people. It occupies an important place in regulation of human conduct and is in fact one of the oldest sources of law. Further, custom is a jus non scriptum, which means it's an unwritten law and is evolved by people in respect of a place where it is followed. When people find any act to be beneficial and agreeable to their nature and disposition, they start practicing it, and from time to time, and when it is continued for a long time or in a memorial period, it obtains the force of law. Further, your lordships, the culture, customs, and traditions of the Replemento do not recognize such types of same-sex marriages, your lordship. As marriage is a personal area and governed by one's religious faith, gay or lesbian marriages are generally considered unholy in the society. Further, living together as partners or in a relationship with a same-sex individual is not comparable with a family unit of husband, wife, and children. Further,
Counsel, my question is this.
yes, your lordships.
In terms of customs and right, your argument, if I'm getting it right, is that it does not intend for homosexual relationships.
Your lordship.
I understand your argumentation. My question is, in the past, if you look at the scriptures which are there or the customs which are developed, intercaste marriages as such were also not permissible under customs which were there under the Hindu code at one point of time. The same is permissible now. And the same is permissible by the blessings
Your lordship.
of Supreme Court in itself by judge. So so are you telling me that these customs, they form an exhaustive code, because that is what the issue asks you to address?
Your lordship, all this caste issues which you were just mentioning were overruled by the enactment of legislature, your lordships. So that was 2 acts, your lordships. So we don't have any law specific legislation for the special like same-sex marriages, your lordship.
Counsel, what constitutes a custom?
You mean the elements of customs, your lordships?
Exactly. And what
Your
solidifies a
lordship,
custom?
public acceptance, immemorial time, and then it should be socially acceptable, legally recognized.
So customs are bound to change over a period of time. Is that a valid statement to make?
Indeed, yes, your lordships.
So are you not considering the fact that customs these days are not to be interpreted the same way they were interpreted at a different point of time? So Victorian,
Not clear with your
my question is,
your lordship.
it's fine, we can extend some more. I didn't get what you just said.
I apologize, your lordship. I couldn't get the question.
My question is, see, you've got the elements of a custom right in terms of time immemorial, the societal acceptance. At this point of time, at this juncture, wherein you have a judgment wherein the act of homosexuality has been decriminalized. So the acceptance of a homosexual marriage, is it not an element to be considered in terms of considering it as a new custom in itself?
Your lordship, that should be socially acceptable, your lordship. Majority of our population are against that. So when we make a move in favor of that, that will definitely create a lot of social disturbances in our country, your lordships.
Council, what is the relevance of the Sabarimala judgment in terms of this particular argument?
Regarding, okay. So I have to connect Sabarimala judgment
this particular aspect. No, not in terms of LGBTQ, in terms of customs. Because there existed a custom in the past. The Supreme Court said that that custom is not to be followed anymore. So what is the relevance of the Sabarimala judgment in terms of the line of argumentation that you have chosen?
The Sabarimala judgment overruled the state of Bombay versus Narusappa Malli judgment that the personal laws cannot be challenged based on the violation of
personal laws
fundamental rights.
Okay. No, my question is this. There existed a custom which was women are not allowed at that particular age group. The Supreme Court went ahead and said that that custom can be overruled. So, can a similar stance not be taken in this particular case as well?
No, your lordships.
Legally, can a similar stance be taken in this particular case?
No, your lordships. What, like?
Why?
I apologize, your lordships. I couldn't connect to this.
Mike, see, what you're arguing is that it was an age-old custom, the fact that homosexual marriages should not exist, on and on. My proposition is this. Similarly, it was an age-old custom that women are not allowed into the Sabarimala temple. The Supreme Court interfered and stated that yes, now they can be allowed to enter the temple. Similarly, how can the Supreme Court not go ahead and make an interpretation that that discriminatory custom which existed in the past,
your lordships, I'm clear with the
is
question.
not one to be followed anymore? Similar.
Your lordship, that is a matter of discretion of this honorable court, your lordships.
And why should we not tend our discretion towards the community rather than yours?
Your lordship, because whatever the state represents as people's views, your lordships, keeping in view the majority of the population, your lordships, people readily don't accept the same-sex marriages, your lordships. Further, your lordships, according to the Hindu Marriage Act, your lordships, marriage is considered a sacrament, your lordships, a union of two souls. And for Muslims, it's a contract. Whatever may be the reason, your lordship, the very purpose of marriage is procreation of children, your lordship, and that is not possible through same-sex marriages, your lordships. Further, your lordships, this is not at all socially acceptable, your lordships. That is the reason we are content, like most of the population of this country view this particular same-sex marriage as grossly immoral and violative of customs and religious beliefs, your lordships.
Council, one final question from my side.
Yes, your lordship.
Feel like you've covered issue 1 completely, but this is something which requires the Hindu population's voice. But Special Marriage Act is a secular provision. So in terms of a secular provision, how can it not be open to judicial scrutiny without taking religion into the question?
Indeed, yes, your lordships.
So in terms of the Special Marriage Act, are you saying that the court can go ahead and rule that Article 14 is violated when homosexuals are not included within it?
Your lordship, whatever may be the act, your lordship, the very purpose of marriage in any religion in our country is procreation of child, your lordship. Even if the gay, same-sex couples say that they'll adopt a child, your lordship, the child will grow up with a skewed version of family, and ultimately this will lead to disintegration of the society, your lordships.
From where do you come with the legal authority that procreation is an important aspect of a marriage or an essential aspect of a marriage?
Your lordship, it's considered an essential aspect in according to every personal law, your lordships. Further, according to our Hindu scriptures also, we have procreation of child.
Understood.
Even according
Understood. And that is an argument under the Hindu Marriage Act. My question is under the Special Marriage Act, which does not take into account these religious questions.
Even your lordship,
It's a court marriage.
even in the Special Marriage Act, your lordships, this particular same-sex marriages cannot be covered because that hurts the religious beliefs, your lordships.
Is that an issue that the Supreme Court should look at? The impact
I
it
apologize.
is having on a religion.
I apologize for this, your lordship.
No, it's fine. My question is it of relevance that a decision of the Supreme Court is going to have an impact on a particular religion for the Supreme Court to take the decision in the first place?
No, your lordships, it's a matter of the discretion of this honorable court to take a decision. But my contention is, your lordships, if you permit same-sex marriage, that would definitely result in disintegration of society. That will create a conflict among the people, your lordships. So that is my contention, your lordships. Being a state, I'm representing a large population of the society, your lordships. So I'm answering it from that perspective, your lordship. Much obliged, your lordships. I've done, your lordships. I've covered all the points.
We can go to the other parts.
With this, I conclude, your lordships. Now I request my co-counsel to continue with issue 2 and 4, your lordships. It was an honor arguing before this court, your lordships.
You can start. You need to unmute. Respondent counsel, you need to unmute.
Sorry.
No problem. Start over.
So as my co-counsel has dealt with the issues 1 and 3, I will be dealing with issues 2 and 4, your lordships. When it comes to issue 2, it is about whether or not civil rights can be granted to the said community, that is transgender community. Your lordships, granting rights, here the issue is about granting rights, as the issue is about granting civil rights, which the said community don't have previously. The rights can only be granted by way of enacting an act by the legislature, and it is exclusive domain of the legislature to grant such rights by way of legislation, your lordships. Further, your lordships, the fundamental right under Article 21.
We have to go into that. My question is this. So you're saying
Yes.
that it is within the domain of the legislature to provide them certain civil rights. My question is, let's take the Transfer of Property Act. Let's take many other legislations which only take into the conception of marriage that we have at this point of time, which is a hetero interpret these.
It was breaking, your lordships. I was not able to use.
I'll repeat. My question is, there are certain enactments such as the Transfer of Property Act, which only refer to heterosexual relationships which are there at this point of time. Can the court not interpret these to be a violation or these to be a discrimination in the first place? Then it does not only fall within the domain of the legislature.
Your lordships, the Right to Property Act, Succession Act, Adoption and Maintenance Acts, all these acts were enacted for the structure, the family structure, which was started ages before ages, to form for it to be in the proper place, like the institution, sorry, your lordships, I'm not able to.
Take your time and argue the way you want to. It's fine.
Yes, your lordships.
Thank you.
Actually, like the
We
family
have a
as
lot
an
of time.
institutions will have ancestors and the co-partners and all, your lordship. For them, like there will be a continuity of human beings. Like in a heterosexual union, there will be continuity of like there will be children, there will be procreation and all. For that purpose, for only that purpose, the Succession Act and Maintenance and Adoption Act were created, your lordships. In homosexual union, there is no scope for procreation, your lordships. Then like as an institution, they cannot procreate children. So the human race will not go further. Like in that cases, I don't think this Succession Act and property laws will should be applicable, your lordships.
Council, you have adoption measures which are there, you have surrogacy measures which are there. So,
Yeah, indeed, yes, your lordships. But surrogacy that is allowed only in exceptional circumstances. That too, surrogacy and test tube or IVF fertilization. All these are not 100% safe, your lordships. There are many cases that in IVF fertilization and all, that 25% is the chance that child will be born, your lordships.
Council, that is not a legal argument, Council.
Uh,
The fact, the chance in terms of surrogacy being successful or not is not an argument. It is only a, or let's say the question is this in terms of Transfer of Property Act, which discriminates for homosexual couples. Should that not be considered as an inherent violation was the question.
Indeed, no, your lordships, because
now the answer
there was a purpose for which Succession and Adoption Acts were enacted, that is for the creation of rights for procreated children, your lordship, for the successive generations to come, to for the rights to go properly. The Succession and all acts were enacted, your lordships. But the question you were asking is, there are some other ways for the procreation. Indeed, yes, but even the Supreme Court have held in many decisions that surrogacy cannot be allowed in every case, because birth is a natural process, your lordships. If we allow this homosexual unions, your lordships, surrogacy will maybe misused, your lordships. So with this argument, yes, your lordship. Much obliged, your lordship. Your lordship, the fundamental right under Article 21 is subject to procedure established by law and cannot be expanded to extend to include the fundamental right for the same-sex marriage to be recognized under the laws of the country, which in fact mandate the contrary, your lordships. And in the Navtej Singh Johar case also, it does not extend the right to privacy to include fundamental right in the nature of right to marry between individuals of the same gender. And currently, the statutory frameworks dealing with the succession, parenthood, and related matters operate in the male-female binary and assume the heterosexual family as a normative standard, your lordships. And your lordships, therefore, even if specific provisions of the
council, my question is simple. This is I'll give you one more chance to answer all the questions that I have posed to you in this particular question. If it is determined by the court to be wrong or to be discriminatory, then the fact that the binary was intended in a different way, is that of any relevance?
Can you repeat, your lordships? Sorry.
In terms of all the civil rights which are to be granted to this community, if these acts were brought out with the binary which has been intended in the past, if the court is to rule that that binary determination itself is discriminatory, is there any argument which states that we cannot rule not discriminatory, or you need to prove it to us that it is not discriminatory?
It is indeed not discriminatory, your lordships. It is only conferring rights upon some people, individuals, your lordships. It is not discriminating transgenders, your lordship. Granting rights to the transgender people is a legislature's a discretion, your lordship. It will grant definitely in the years to come. it will grant your lordship. It is legislature's right to grant by way of legislation, your lordship. But here these are not discriminating particular community, your lordship. It is just only granting some rights upon the Hindus, your lordship. They were while the legislators at that point of time, when they were making the legislation, they were not having this in mind, that this transgender community will in future will ask for this rights, your lordship. They were only having this this institution, family institution, and they have enacted, your lordship. But that was not enacted to discriminate persons, your lordships.
Counsel, in the judgment of Arun Kumar, which is the Madras High Court judgment,
Yes, indeed, yes, your lordships.
There has been protection which is provided to the transgender community. The transgender community, it has been interpreted that they can come within the ambit of the acts which allow them to get married.
Indeed, yes, your lordships, but that was not upheld by this honorable court. So it is the subordinate court, that is High Court, which have enacted that, your lordships.
Was it challenged?
Yes, no, your lordships. It is challenged in Madras High Court, but I seek apology that I don't have,
It's fine. Continue.
I don't know that,
Continue.
if that is challenged in Apex Court or not.
No issues. Continue.
Acha, oblige, your lordship. Moreover, it is submitted that here I would like to point to the petitioner's contention, your lordships, that the civil rights were not granted by the legislature, which is objectionable, your lordships, because in Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Act 2019, it was enacted for the protection of rights of transgender people, their welfare, and other related matters, your lordships. With this, I conclude my issue number 2, your lordships. I further move to issue number 4, that is whether or not members from the said community can be allowed to be married as per the rituals of their respective religions, your lordships. Your lordship, as this is about the about religious rituals, every religion will have different rituals, and every ritual will have different purpose, your lordship. Here there is necessity to get into every religion and what it says about the marriage, and what are the rituals specific to specific purposes, your lordship. When it comes to Hindu Marriage Act, your lordship, the Vedas, the ancient texts describe say that Hindu marriage is performed for 3 main purposes, your lordships. That is Dharma, Praja, and Rati, your lordships. Here, Dharma is performance of yagnas and yagas by man and woman. Both, one cannot perform without the other person, your lordships. And Praja, this is the main purpose for which the marriage is performed in Hindu.
Can you guys hear?
Hindus, your lordship. And next is Praja. Praja is progeny.
Counsel, you're muted. You're muted.
Your lordships, am I audible? Your lordship, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible. Start.
Yes.
You can continue.
Yes,
You're
your
at Praja.
And the third is Rati, your lordship, that is sexual pleasure. This is given least importance in Hindu marriage, your lordship. The first is Dharma and Praja. Praja is for the promotion of the human race, for which the marriage is actually created. Not just in Hinduism, your lordships, in any religion, if you take, the marriage is performed for the main purpose of promoting the human race, your lordships. That is given the main importance in any religion, your lordships. And further,
Counsel, we get the importance of this under the Hindu religion, which is there. My question then is, if you take a judgment like the other side cited, Shaira Bano, can we not apply the power of the Supreme Court to go into these particular customs of religion, and now state that because it doesn't include the homosexual community, it is discriminatory and therefore doesn't stand the test of law?
Your lordship, in Shaira Bano case, that is triple talaq, that was not the essence of the religion. Triple talaq was not the essence of the religion. It was that's why it was struck down. And even in the Sabarmala case, the discrimination of women, it is not the essence of religion. What it is, what the religion is exactly teaching, that is why they were stuck down, your lordships. But in this case, the religion is created for controlling the society, your lordship, for making everyone go in the right path, your lordship. So the marriage, it promotes this, to stop the chaos in the society. The marriage was created, your lordships.
Then how do we come to the conclusion that a heterosexual relationship between two individuals is an essential part of a religion?
Your lordships, actually the heterosexual union is created to to stop the chaos in the society. Like men and women, if they are obliged to each other, like for the procreation of children after the marriage, even if the child is born, they will be responsible for the child and for each other to themselves. So this way the obligations of the religion are
what is different
kept
in a
on-
homosexual relationship?
Yes, your lordships. Your lordships, as I told that Dharma and Praja, these two aspects which are very important in a marriage, that is not that cannot be performed by homosexual union, your lordship. And
Like
it is
what?
for the specific, like like progeny, your lordships. For example, progeny, they like in case of can you repeat the question, your lordships?
Counsel, my question is this. You're telling me that there are certain aspects of Hinduism which have to be followed by a couple, and that is why they intended the marriage. Or
No, your
there is a
lordships,
difference?
not for following this, but for them to be in social control, like for the society to be kept in the social control position. This thing was allowed, your lordship.
My question is this. Let's say the aspects of Dharma, Praja, all of that taken into consideration. If the Hindu couple, a heterosexual Hindu couple, once they are married, does not do any of this, does that result in vitiating the marriage which took place in the first place?
Your lordships, the intention is for these purposes, your lordships. But we, if there are some inevitable cases where the child may not be born out of a union, your lordship, but the intention is something different, your lordship. The intention should be kept in mind, your lordship.
Because the resulting factor has no relevance into the validity of the marriage in the first place.
The resulting factor that will not happen in every
to the
case.
question about the essence. It's not a numbers game.
Your lordship,
it's a legal question.
Your lordships, actually the intention may be different, but we cannot avoid the inevitable circumstances, your lordship. But the intentions must be respected, your lordship.
How much time would you require for this argument?
Just 3 to 4 minutes, your lordships. I have not yet started issue 4. Yeah.
Sure.
Lordship.
Because we are running out of time.
Your lordships, much obliged, your lordships. Your lordships, it is humbly submitted that all Indian personal laws appear to envisage marriage as a heterosexual union, your lordships. And while marriage happens between two private individuals, it cannot be relegated to merely concept within the domain of privacy of an individual. Marriage is recognized as a public recognition of relationships with which several statutory rights and obligations are attached, your lordships. In Indian society, marriage is basically a socially recognized union of two individuals, which is governed either by the uncodified personal laws or codified statutory laws. There is no acceptance of institution of marriage between two individuals of same gender, either in personal laws or codified statutory laws. The jurisprudence of the nation, be it by way of codified or otherwise, evolves based on the social values, beliefs, cultural history, and other factors, your lordships. In case of issues concerning personal relationships like marriage, divorce, adoption, maintenance, etc., either the codified law or personal law occupies the field. It said suggesting that laws are enacted by legislature's wisdom in the manner concomitant with the societal values and national acceptability. Your lordships further seeking a declaration recognizing same-sex marriage has more legal ramifications than simple recognition, your lordships. It would also be in violation of existing codified laws and personal laws. The parties to the same-sex marriage would not fit the legislative scheme, which clearly talks about biological woman who is a wife and man who is husband. Any interference with the same would cause complete havoc with the delicate balance of the personal laws in the country, your lordship. With this, the council ends her argument, your lordship. The council further seeks to proceed with the prayer, your lordships.
Please proceed.
Much obliged, your lordship. Much obliged, your lordships. Therefore, for all the reasons which the council submitted before this honorable court on the question of law and in the light of fact stated arguments advanced and authorities cited, the councils for the petitioner humbly praise and according to it most sincerely pleads this Honorable Supreme Court of Republic of Replemento to hold, adjudge and declare that the Hindu Marriage Act 1955 and Special Marriage Act 1954 cannot include members from the LGBTQIA community. The customs, traditions, rites, rituals do not form an exhaustive code, and dismiss the petition and pass any other orders, direction, or relief that the court may deem fit and proper in the interest of justice, equity, and good conscience. For this act of kindness, the counsels for the petitioner shall duty bound, respondents shall duty bound forever pray, your lordships. It is an honor arguing before this court, your lordships.
So, yep, thank you. We're done, right? Like, give me 2 minutes. I'll just fill in your scores. After that, I'll give you feedback.
Much obliged, your lordships.
I'm done. So I'll give you feedback. I'll give you individual feedback, or do you want to have a group feedback in the sense like for the team itself? What do you guys prefer?
Individual feedback.
Individual feedback.
Individual, sir.
Individual feedback, your lordship.
So I'll start off with the petitioners. I'll start off with you as a whole. So number one, there's a requirement in terms of a structure which has to be there for argumentation. So if you look at the way in which you people were arguing, it looked like you were arguing, I understand you were arguing the LGBTQ cause, but the division of the arguments in terms of it coming, like the marriage quotient has to have a separate kind of arguments. The civil rights quotient have to have a separate kind of arguments. It cannot have such an overlap that it would seem like you're arguing the same issue in all four issues. That is something that I felt the memo as well. Like if you go, like I've read your memo yesterday itself. See, I understand if I'm not wrong, like correct me if I'm wrong, like you have certain limitations which are there in your memo. It cannot exceed certain pages or something, right?
Yes, your lordship.
Yeah. So that if that is taken into consideration, I understand your problem, but there is a lot of flagging out which is required. There's a lot more citations that you have to cite, and something which is missing in like both the memorials is which is the international jurisprudence is very well applicable for any memo. Like if you're looking at Indian court law, Indian cases which are there to be applied as well, you see that they cite a lot of international cases which are there. If you look at US case law which is available, there are umpteen number of case laws which can be applied in this particular instance. None of you have either contended it or submitted it within your memorials. So what I'm saying is, like if you're looking at Vishaka versus State of Rajasthan, that is judgment has been cited by one of your teams. But if you're looking at the South Africa, it refers to the Court of United Kingdom and various other judgments which are there. The reason these judgments are cited within the final judgment is because counsel stated that in the first place. So your research has to go far beyond that. So let me come to individual feedback. Counsel number one, all of you are wonderful speakers. Like all of you are brilliant speakers. There is no doubt about that. There's only slight changes that you can bring in that will make you much better mooters. That's common feedback to everyone. Now, like which year are you guys in? Petitioners, yeah.
Yes, Your Lordship.
Which year of college are you guys
We're in the first year, Your Lordship.
First years.
You guys are in your first years. That's
Yes, Your
surprising.
Yes, Your Lordship.
I didn't think that you guys are in your first years. At least from your arguments and style, I didn't think that you guys are from your first year. What about the respondents?
Final year, Your Lordship.
Final
Sorry?
year, Your Lordships.
Final year. That's nice. 3-year or 5-year course?
5-year course, Your Lordships.
We are also from 5-year course, Your Lordship.
You guys are also in the 5-year course?
Yes, Your Lordship.
The respondents? 5-year course. That's nice.
Yes, sir.
See, I am of the opinion that people can turn out to be great mooters at any point of time in their college, even in their final years also. There's only certain things that you have to change in terms of your mooting style to make you a brilliant mooter. So in terms of the first petitioner who was there, great style of speaking. Like I like the way you speak, all those things are there. But when it comes to a legal argumentation, I want you to have a lot more clarity. Like when you take an issue, I want you to dissect it. For example, the first issue begs you to argue it separately in terms of the Hindu Marriage Act and separately in terms of the Special Marriage Act. Take those two things and argue it, because the petitioners have a stronger case in terms of the Special Marriage Act and a weaker case in terms of the Hindu Marriage Act, and it's the reverse in terms of the respondents. So use that to your advantage. You don't have to have common arguments for everything bundled up together. If you're able to come here and give me a skeleton of an argument and state that the Hindu Marriage Act, these are the things that we are going to be arguing. Special Marriage Act, these are the things that we're going to be arguing. The judge in itself will have an impression towards that team in the first place. I'm not saying that we are ruling on impressions, but that is the actual factual scenario out there. That's how you're going to face a lot more judges in other competitive moot court competitions that you're going to see in the future. So when you take a question, you need to understand what is the intention behind someone asking you that particular question. So when I ask you a particular question about, let's say, the first issue itself. Let's go back to the first issue of the petitioners, the Hindu Marriage Act, and I want you to pinpoint and tell me very clearly what kind of a discrimination exists or how exactly they are defined under the term persons. There's a little, if I'm drawing a comparison in terms of the respondents, what they came here and told me is that we need to go on a track of interpretation. That is the track they chose. But I'm very unclear about it when it comes from the petitioner's argument in the first place. I get a little more clarity when time goes and like the second counsel also comes in, that what is the line of argumentation that you've chosen. But when the first few minutes in a particular moot court competition, when you start arguing is the most important. At that point, the sub issues that you're going to be arguing, so that I have a skeletal understanding of what you're going to be coming out with later on. So research better. That's an advice that I can give everyone in this. Research much better. Like take an issue, see what this particular judgment addresses. Like all the judgments that you have cited, good judgments, great judgments, but those are judgments that every practicing lawyer kind of knows. So what we require you is to come out with a judgment which has got an interpretation which is creative. There is that element of creativity is always going to be appreciated by any bench. So yeah, that's about first counsel. Coming to second counsel, yes, similarly, you're a very good speaker too. The only thing that I think that you can improve is when I'm asking you a particular question, the ability to answer it, you need to understand what is the question that is being asked. And also in terms of your division of issues between the two of you, it's a little confusing because at times you're arguing certain things, but the issue is begging you to argue something else. So when you practice your orals, you need to think about it from a judge's perspective. You need to think about whether what then he's comparing the metric of comparison which the judge now has is what you're telling him. So when the judge is looking at the issue and then is looking at your arguments, he sees a difference in terms of what is expected and what is being given. That is the only thing. So if you research better, you'll be able to tackle that problem pretty well. Now coming to the respondent side, respondent number one. See, I don't technically think that any of you, I don't know, like, are you all of the opinion that homosexual marriages should be permissible in the society? Yeah, you can answer. My question is like, are you of the opinion that homosexual marriages are permissible in the society?
Yes, Your Lordship.
If
Indeed, yes, your lordships.
the brilliance of an advocate who comes on the respondent side is if you can still hold that opinion and argue this case. It's a very difficult proposition to put forward. It's things about saying that the judiciary cannot rule upon certain things. Those are the aspects. So when you come here and give me an entire factual background about how, see, let me clarify this. Let me go back to a particular argument that you raised. The intention of the legislature. The intention of the legislature is a track to go on, but it is not the right track to go on. I'll explain why. The intention of the legislature only tells us what was the intention of the people who sat down and wrote the Hindu Marriage Act, the Special Marriage Act. But it does not tell us as to why a court which is sitting 70 years later on cannot go back and revisit that intention and see whether it's discriminatory or not. Otherwise, there would be no laws which are struck down. Right. Like, even if you take the Sabrimala verdict also, if they come out and say that that was the intention which was there in the past to not allow women to come in, how can a court go ahead and do anything further? The court has the power to go ahead and look at whether it's discriminatory or not. You skipped a question by telling me that the other counsel is going to come and argue that. The other counsel never argued that. The question of discrimination is not something which has been touched by anyone on this side. It is fine. It is fine. Like, it's a moot court. It's not an actual court hearing where you have to argue everything. I get that. But when you tackle questions, you need to look at whether or not discrimination is an important aspect of the issue that you're covering. If it is, then you have to see as to whether you're missing out by not arguing it. You get what I'm saying?
Yes, Your Lordship.
Yeah. Coming to the last counsel, I feel like your response to answers is one which was sufficiently good. Like, when I'm asking you a particular question, I think you are able to process it pretty well and come out with an answer. Even though we ask you the tougher questions when you go better in terms of your argumentation. That's something everyone should note. Like, if you're asking you hard questions, that is not argumentation. We want to see a little more nuance in terms of it. We want to see whether, let's say, if you're giving you an 8-point or a 9-point, I want to ask you a question, and if your answers are good, then that will increase the amount of points that you're going to be getting. That's the reason why you have tough questions which are coming from the side of the bench. So, but see, the structure of argumentation has to be very clear. Like, this is what I'm arguing. These arguments deal with these particular. So you guys had you were dealing with issue number 2 and 4, right? Counsel, you are dealing with issue number 2 and 4, right?
Yes, Your Lordship.
Yes. So when we're looking at issue number 2, whether or not civil rights can be granted to members of this community, see, the response or the answers that I get are pretty much what's there in your memorial itself, which is that it was not intended for these two communities. Then you're talking to me about how adoption, how those things are never intended for this particular community to have rights. See, this is a line of argumentation. You can always draw a comparison with living relationships and tell me that these rights are not extended to those individuals as well. So the intention of the legislature can be one argument, but you need to have a fallback argument in case that doesn't work. I understand that's a valid argument to have. If I go to court of law with this, I would take the same argument and go. But you need to have a fallback mechanism. You need to have a comparison in terms of living relationships. You need to say that if those rights are not provided to that community, why should it be provided to a different community, things like that. You need to like expand your area of research and expand the amount of time and preparation that you put towards a moot court competition. Do you guys have any questions for me?
No, Your Lordship.
No, Your Lordship.
No, Your Lordship.
Then we can conclude. We can conclude. Just like basic tips for like how many moots have you guys been to? Like, have you guys been for other moots?
It's our first, sir.
Yeah,
We
you
have
guys are
done
first years. I
moots.
understand. What about the other team?
Yeah, we
So
have done.
don't worry about marking and all of that. That's why I already marked and then I got to feedback session.
No.
We
Yeah,
have done 2 moots, Your Lordships, in
Sure.
Care University and in
Okay.
Usmania University, which is our own college.
That's nice. So like that's great. I mean, like the opportunities for you guys first years is a lot. You have like 5 years ahead of you in terms of mooting. You guys can aim for like the top World Cup of moots which are there, like the international moot court competitions and all which are there. But the level of preparation which is, and I believe that you guys are going to, I mean, like the 5th years, the final years were there, are going to enter the industry. See, there are only certain aspects of the moot court which you can apply in the real life industry. In the real life industry, it's going to be way different. The amount of preparation, that time that you get in moot court competitions is a lot. In real life, you're going to get way lesser, but the expectation is way higher in real life. So when you enter the industry, if you are planning to become litigating lawyers, then you need to make sure that you have a skill of saying things with the least amount of words which are applicable. Like if you're not verbose, like if all of you are able to like convey your opinions in, let's say, 1 line instead of coming out with 10 lines, that's a skill that moot courts I mean allows you to take back into your actual profession later on as well. That's what the final years can take in. The first years you have like all the opportunities, you have a lot of time ahead of you for like mood development as well. You guys can reach out to me on my LinkedIn, or like the organizers can give you my email. So yeah, that's about it. Sure. Bye guys.
Thank you,
Thank
Your
you so
Lordship.
much. Thank you,
Your
Lordship.
Lordship.
It was an argument before you.
You can end this meeting. 1 second. Anupreet, like
Yeah.
I have entered the details in the Google Doc. What do I do? Do I send it? Do I mail it? Or do I just leave it?
Your Lordship, you can send it to the mail.
I'll send it to the mail. Okay. Cool. End the meeting then.
Thank you, Lord. Thank you, my Lordship, for being a part of this competition and making it successful.